So if you want to test how fluent you truly are in a new language, do not take a written exam in a quiet classroom.
Oh, absolutely not. That's way too easy.
Right. Instead, you should go to a major international airport, find out your flight has been moved to a gate like a mile away, and try to ask a stranger for directions while sprinting with a heavy suitcase.
Yeah, that is the ultimate language learning stress test.
It really is. And welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are conquering exactly that, the airport.
Because, I mean, the modern airport is an environment that's basically perfectly engineered to attack your cognitive functions.
Oh, totally.
You've got relentless auditory noise from overhead announcements, visual overload from flashing departure screens, and, an ever-present ticking clock.
Yeah, the time pressure is the worst part.
Exactly. So you throw a foreign language on top of all that, and your brain is suddenly processing an overwhelming amount of variables just to get from the front doors to your actual seat.
Right. And our mission today is to turn that nightmare scenario into a manageable, maybe even comfortable experience for you.
Hopefully comfortable, yeah.
We are pulling from a really brilliant stack of sources today. They are transcripts from beginner English lessons specifically designed to demystify English at the airport.
But we're not just going to read a vocabulary list at you. That would be boring.
Yeah, we are going to decode the underlying structure of the airport itself. Because showing you how understanding the system works well, it drastically reduces the mental processing power you need to survive it.
It really does. When you understand the geography and the rules of the environment, the language required actually becomes remarkably simple.
Right, the chaos just filters down into a sequence of predictable steps.
Exactly.
So let's just walk right into the building. The automatic sliding doors part, the noise hits you, and you face your first major hurdle.
The check-in counter.
Yes. Before you can get anywhere near an airplane, you have to find that counter, prove who you are, and surrender your heavy bags.
And according to the sources, the absolute non-negotiable item here is your passport.
Right, no passport, no vacation.
Basically, yeah. Handing over the passport initiates a highly specific, standardized transaction.
It's very routine.
It is. The airline staff member will verify your identity, and then you face the luggage distinction.
Right, the bags.
Yeah, you have your checked luggage, the massive suitcase that goes on the scale.
The one you just pray weighs under 25 kilos, so you avoid those punishing extra fees.
Oh, exactly. Those fees are brutal. And then opposed to that, you have your carry-on luggage.
The carry-on being the smaller bag or backpack that physically stays with you.
Right. And that distinction between checked and carry-on isn't just about overhead bin space, though.
No, it dictates the exact level of security scrutiny you're about to face, right?
Exactly. If you accidentally pack, say, a prohibited item in your carry-on instead of your checked bag, you create massive friction for yourself at the next checkpoint.
And speaking of friction, the sources highlight that the check-in counter is where you face some very intense security questions.
Oh, the standard interrogations.
Yeah, things like, did you pack your bags yourself? And has anyone given you anything to carry?
And the sources heavily emphasize answering these questions factually and without any attempt at humor.
Yeah, I would assume joking about a mysterious package from a neighbor is a fast track to missing your flight.
Oh, 100%. It's not the time for stand-up comedy.
But I have to stop you there, though. Because, to a language learner, being asked if someone gave you a mysterious package feels, well, like a police interrogation.
It's intimidating.
It is. I would be terrified of using the wrong verb tense and ending up in a windowless security holding cell.
I mean, that's a valid fear.
Right. But the sources claim these rigid interactions are actually a hidden advantage for a language learner. How on earth is an interrogation an advantage?
Okay, so think of the check-in interaction less like an open-ended English test and more like a tennis volley.
The tennis volley. Okay, I'm listening.
Yeah, the airline agent is serving a highly predictable question. You do not need to invent a complex, creative new move.
You just have to swing back.
Exactly, you just swing back with a one-word return. The advantage lies in the closed-loop nature of the conversation.
A closed-loop conversation, meaning there are only so many paths the dialogue can actually take.
Right. The parameters are entirely set. The agent is not going to suddenly ask you about your philosophical views on modern aviation.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, they are only going to ask...
And you have to do it through a single piece of paper, the boarding pass.
Receiving your boarding pass is really the moment your journey becomes real. And along with it, you receive your seat assignment.
Yes, the seating choices. So the sources break these down quite nicely into like psychological profiles?
They do. It's pretty funny. You have the window seat, which is designated for the dreamers who want to lean against the glass and watch the clouds or the cityscapes.
I'm definitely a window seat person. But then you have the aisle seat, which is for the practical traveler.
The one who wants immediate access to the corridor.
Exactly, so they can stretch their legs or use the restroom without having to perform gymnastics over a sleeping stranger.
Always awkward. And we cannot forget the middle seat.
Oh, the middle seat.
Yeah.
Which the sources hilariously but very accurately describe as a test of patience that absolutely nobody volunteers for.
It really is an endurance challenge, without a doubt.
Cold and nightmare.
But, the most vital piece of information on that document isn't just the seat. It's the fact that it is a boarding pass, not a ticket.
Okay, this is where I see learners, and honestly, seasoned travelers too get totally tripped up by airport jargon.
It happens all the time.
Why do airlines insist on using the phrase boarding pass instead of just calling it a ticket? I mean, I bought a ticket. It feels like they are throwing extra vocabulary at us just to be difficult.
I get why it feels that way, but the airline industry uses distinct terminology because the physical layout of the airport demands it.
How so?
Well, a ticket is simply a financial contract. It is the proof that you purchased the journey. You can possess a ticket 6 months before you ever arrive at the airport.
Okay, right.
A boarding pass, however, is a real-time geographic coordinate system and a physical key.
Oh, I see. So the ticket buys the journey, but the boarding pass unlocks the doors.
Exactly. It gives you physical permission to cross the heavily guarded threshold of airport security and to step onto the actual aircraft.
Because it contains your specific gate number and your boarding time for that exact day.
Precisely. And understanding this underlying mechanism really reduces the mental friction when you are navigating the terminal.
So when an overhead announcement says, please have your boarding pass ready, your brain doesn't have to pause.
Right, you don't have to translate the word ticket and wonder if the staff wants to see the email receipt on your phone.
You immediately know which specific physical document grants you permission to proceed.
You are isolating the exact tool you need for the exact job.
That is so helpful.
Yeah.
Okay, so armed with your boarding pass, you have the permission to navigate the massive chaotic terminal.
You have your geographic coordinates.
Yes, and this is where the highest risk of totally ruining your vacation occurs.
Yeah.
Right? Finding your gate before the doors close.
Oh, the transition from the security checkpoint to the gate is where time pressure becomes a severe psychological factor.
To illustrate just how spectacularly wrong this phase can go, the sources share a highly entertaining cautionary tale about a traveler named Jack.
Poor Jack.
Jack is essentially a walking disaster area when it comes to airports.
Right.
He really serves as a perfect case study in what happens when the airport environment just overwhelms the human brain.
He really does. In one scenario from the sources, Jack manages to get through security, finds what he believes is his assigned gate, sits down, and decides to take a nap.
It's a dangerous move.
Very. He falls asleep for 2 solid hours, and when he finally opens his eyes, his plane is completely gone.
Oh, no.
Yeah, he had slept at the wrong gate while his actual flight took off without him.
That is a visceral nightmare for anyone who has ever traveled.
It gets worse, though. Jack's story escalates. In another chaotic airport moment, he checks the departure screen, sees the word boarding, and just goes into full action hero mode.
Panic sprinting.
Exactly. He sprints across the terminal to gate B19, completely out of breath. He slams his boarding pass onto the desk, and the airline employee just stares at him and calmly says, "Sir, this flight is boarding for Tokyo."
He almost accidentally went to Japan.
Just because he panicked and ran to the wrong geographical coordinate. Oh, and amidst all this running around, the sources note he also accidentally said good morning to an automated airport cleaning robot.
Greeting a robot is actually a surprisingly common side effect of sensory overload.
Is it really?
Yeah. We laugh at Jack's misfortunes, but there's a profound neurological phenomenon happening beneath the comedy here.
What's going on in his brain?
When we experience the kind of sudden, intense stress Jack felt, the realization that we might miss a flight, our brain's architecture actively works against us.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. The amygdala, which is the brain's fear center, essentially hijacks the prefrontal cortex.
Wait, the prefrontal cortex is the part that handles logic and complex thinking.
Exactly. It is the center for executive function and, crucially, for complex language processing and grammar.
So it just shuts down.
Pretty much. When the amygdala detects an emergency, it diverts energy away from the prefrontal cortex. It prepares your body to fight or run, not to conjugate verbs.
That explains so much.
For a language learner, this means your carefully studied high-level vocabulary simply evaporates. You undergo cognitive narrowing.
You literally lose access to the English you already know because your brain thinks you are being chased by a lion instead of just missing a flight to Chicago.
That is the biological reality of airport panic. And this brings us to one of the most powerful insights from the source material.
Let's hear it.
The sources advocate for something they call baby English. But, from a linguistic standpoint, calling it baby English undersells how effective it is.
What should we call it instead?
We should really frame it as tactical simplification or survival linguistics.
Tactical simplification. Oh, I like that much better. Sounds like a strategy rather than a failure.
Exactly.
So how does tactical simplification actually work?
Well, in a crisis, you must abandon any attempt at polite, complex syntax.
Okay.
If you are lost and the plane doors are closing in 5 minutes, your brain might instinctively try to formulate a sentence like, I was wondering if you could possibly guide me in the direction of my gate.
Right, because we want to be polite.
But constructing that sentence requires massive cognitive effort. And if you stumble over the words because your heart is pounding, the person you are asking will likely be confused.
So you were standing there stammering out a formal essay while the plane pushes back from the jet bridge.
Exactly. It's totally counterproductive.
What is the tactical alternative then?
You strip the language down to its absolute structural bones. You say, excuse me, where is gate A12? Or, in a state of total panic, simply, help, gate A12.
But that feels almost rude to say to a stranger, though. We are so conditioned to be polite.
I know, but in an emergency, clarity is the highest form of politeness.
Oh, that's a great way to look at it.
The goal is no longer passing a grammar test. The goal is immediate communication and physical survival. The airline staff does not care about your mastery of auxiliary verbs.
They just need the raw data to point you in the right direction.
Exactly. Tactical simplification is a highly efficient cognitive strategy.
I find that incredibly freeing. You do not have to be an eloquent orator when you are panicking. You just have to be understood.
That's the whole point.
But knowing that you should use simple language is one thing. Actually, making your mouth produce those words while your amygdala is screaming at you is another challenge entirely.
Oh, absolutely.
The sources point out that understanding the theory of airport English is useless if you freeze up like Jack sprinting to the Tokyo flight.
Right, because knowledge must be converted into muscle memory.
Muscle memory for language.
Yeah. If the prefrontal cortex goes offline during stress, you have to store these essential survival phrases in a different part of the brain. You need to make speaking them a motor skill.
And the sources introduce a technique for building this exact type of muscle memory, and they call it shadowing.
Shadowing, yes.
When I read this section, I was fascinated. How does shadowing physically bypass the panic brain?
So shadowing is an active, simultaneous learning technique. You listen to a native speaker, and you do not wait for them to finish their sentence.
Oh, you just talk over them.
Basically, you immediately copy the sound, the rhythm, and the stress of the words, speaking almost on top of them. You act as their vocal shadow.
So you are not just listening and analyzing. You are physically moving your jaw and tongue.
Exactly. You are shifting the language from a purely cognitive process to a physiological one. You are literally training the motor cortex in your brain.
That makes total sense.
By repeating the phrase out loud over and over, you store the phonetic shape of where is gate 12 in the same neurological neighborhood that remembers how to ride a bicycle or tie your shoes.
Wow.
So when panic strikes, your mouth simply executes the motor pattern without needing your conscious brain to build the sentence from scratch.
The sources shared a fantastic anecdote about a learner who took this motor skill training a bit too seriously.
Oh, the cafe story.
Yes, they were practicing their shadowing technique in a crowded public cafe wearing noise-canceling earphones.
Never a good idea in public.
Right. They were shadowing dialogue from a high-stakes action movie, completely unaware of their own volume. The entire cafe suddenly stopped and stared as this person yelled out, "Let's go, we don't have much time."
A high-risk environment for practice, certainly, but the physiological conditioning is undeniable.
It sounds totally bizarre, but if it shifts language into a reflex, I want to try it.
We should.
In fact, rather than just talking about the mechanics of shadowing, let's make this organic. I am going to try shadowing you right now, live on the mic.
Okay, let's do it.
And for you listening, wherever you are, even if you're sitting on a train or walking your dog, I want you to shadow along with me. Whisper it if you have to.
A practical demonstration is the best way to understand the motor engagement. I will provide the phrase. Listen to the rhythm and repeat it immediately after.
That was good.
Let's start with the check-in counter. Here is my passport.
3-second pause.
Here is my passport.
Good. Focus on the emphasis. Here is my passport.
3-second pause.
Here is my passport. Okay, I feel how the jaw drops on pass.
Exactly. Let's do the next scenario, the seating assignment. I would like a window seat, please. 3-second pause.
I would like a window seat, please. Wait, I stumbled on the rhythm there. Let me try again. I would like a window seat, please.
Better. You are feeling the physical cadence of the request. Now, let's move to the ultimate survival phrase.
The tactical simplification one.
Right, for when you are lost in the terminal. Excuse me, where is gate 12? 3-second pause.
Excuse me, where's gate 12?
Notice how the stress falls naturally on the crucial information. The gate number. Excuse me, where is gate 12? 3-second pause.
Excuse me, where's gate 12? I can actually feel how practicing that out loud makes it a reflex.
It really works.
But I do worry about my pronunciation, honestly. If my accent is thick and I'm stressed out, will the tactical simplification still work?
We often overestimate how much a perfect accent matters.
Really?
Yeah, major airports are the most intensely international intersections on the planet. The staff working the check-in counters and the gates process thousands of different linguistic variations and accents every single shift.
That's true. They hear everything.
They are experts at filtering out the noise and listening for the core data points. Passport, bag, gate.
They are listening for the function, not grading the form.
Exactly. As long as your rhythm and your vowels are clear enough to convey the data, you will be understood. Shadowing gives you the physical confidence to project those words clearly, even when your internal stress level is peaking.
That is a massive relief. Okay, let's pull back and look at the conceptual journey we have mapped out today.
We've covered a lot of ground.
We really took an environment designed to cause sensory overload and cognitive shutdown, and we dismantled it.
We mapped the mechanics of the system.
Yes. You start at the check-in counter, armed with the knowledge that it is not an interrogation, but a closed-loop tennis volley. You hand over your passport.
You understand the critical distinction between your heavy checked luggage and your carry-on luggage.
Which ensures you don't trigger friction at security.
Right. And you secure your geographical coordinate.
You make your calculated psychological choice between the window or the aisle seat. You take possession of your boarding pass, knowing it is your physical key to the restricted zone, not just a financial ticket.
The physical key is crucial.
And finally, you navigate the terminal, keeping Jack's cautionary tale in mind.
Don't take a nap at the gate.
Definitely not. You double-check the departure screen so you don't sprint onto a flight to Tokyo. And you rely on your shadowed, tactically simplified survival English to find your actual gate.
And suddenly, the chaos becomes a series of manageable transactions.
You are thoroughly equipped for the mission. But looking at the entirety of these beginner English sources, there is a deeper philosophy hiding inside this lesson about airport survival.
There really is.
What is the ultimate takeaway you want lingering in the mind of the listener after they take their headphones off today?
Well, the concept of tactical simplification forces us to reevaluate how we treat language in our daily lives.
How do you mean?
If stripping away complex syntax and using basic functional English is a highly effective, scientifically sound strategy for getting exactly what you need in a high-stakes airport emergency, I mean, if it literally prevents disaster, why do we punish ourselves so relentlessly for not using flawless grammar at a coffee shop or in a casual meeting?
Wow. We hold ourselves to this paralyzing, impossible standard in low-stakes environments.
Exactly.
We treat every conversation like an academic pursuit where a conjugated verb is a failure, but in a real crisis, we abandon the textbook entirely, and the basic tools work flawlessly.
The rigid pursuit of perfection actually inhibits communication. When you strip away the ego, the fear of sounding foolish, and the academic pressure, you uncover the true mechanism of language.
It is.
The ultimate goal of language is not perfection, it is connection and survival. It is simply a tool designed to help you navigate physical space and connect with the human being standing in front of you.
Connection and survival. So the next time you walk through those automatic sliding doors dragging your suitcase and the sheer volume of the terminal hits you, do not view it as a high-pressure exam where the world is grading your fluency.
Just remember, you are simply stepping onto the court for a predictable volley.
You have the vocabulary, you understand the geography, and you know that your simple, clear, well-practiced words are the only tool you need to unlock the doors and reach your destination. You have the ultimate study guide now. Safe travels, everyone.